In today's video, I will be ranking every boon and flaw in Deepwoken from worst to best, starting with the boons. Before we get into it, make sure to subscribe, because only about 20% of the people watching this video are actually subscribed. So subscribe and hit that bell, and let's get into it. First of all, we'll be covering the boons. The worst boon in the game is easily Marauder. This makes it so you gain luck slightly increased from all events which give luck. However, it doesn't increase your max luck, meaning you'll still end up getting the max 43% luck in only one kill less than usual, which is nothing seeing as how arena is extremely easy, and all this does is save you one arena win. Marauder is really not worth taking in most circumstances, unless you really want to save the 2 minutes it would have taken to beat that shitter in arena that you would have beaten anyway. It really does not matter. Pack Mule is really only good if you carry a lot of fruit on you, but there's pretty much no reason to carry or go Pack Mule, especially because just having higher strength stat increases your carry capacity, meaning you can get the same addition without using a boon slot on this. And also, there's always just better options than this, so don't take it. Steadfast makes you lose armor less per hit. It isn't very good, but it's better than everything before it on this list. It's really only good for long-lasting water fights where you can't reach a campfire due to being in water, but you still need the extra armor. Other than that, it's very mediocre. Gourmet is pretty mid. It's okay to have since it makes food more valuable and fruit give more water, which means you can go on longer in most ganks, but it's still pretty underwhelming most of the time. It's not bad to take this, but if you are taking this, chances are your build really just, carries you, or you just didn't really care about your boons in the first place, which is fine, because they don't really make too much of a difference most of the time. Currently, Survivalist is pretty mediocre. It protects you from acid rain, and that's about it. However, in Layer 2, environmental resistance is most likely going to be a lot more important, since all of Layer 2 is environmental effects. And even Agamatsu said that Survivalist would be a lot better in Layer 2, so it'll probably be pretty important, and it'll probably make Layer 2 a lot easier to survive in. But we don't know that yet. By the way, Layer 2 is dropping in September. I don't know the date, I just know it's September. Maverick is good if you solo progress, and useless if you don't. If you're good at the game and solo progress, take it. If you're bad at the game or play with friends most of the time, then don't take it. It really depends on who you are and how you played, which really decides how useful Maverick is. But it's usually, at the very least, okay to take. Autodidact is okay early game and mid game, but pretty much useless in the end game. As a whole, it's not worth taking unless you just want to save yourself the EXP early game to level up faster. However, in the end game, all this does is give you an investment point earlier since you still need the EXP. But I know if I place it too low, a bunch of perma-freshies are going to get mad and say, "Oh my god, Autodidact is so good though!" It's really not as good as a lot of you say it is because it really doesn't benefit you that much even in the end game. Which is why I would say that Gourmet is honestly probably better than it. But, I don't want to hear you bitching, so I'm going to put it this point on the list. This is my personal favorite boon. Scrapper allows you to burn an extra card every other burn level. This is amazing, especially now that you can burn mantras. This just makes it so I can burn the shitty cards and get more of the good ones. This talent just means you have a higher chance to get the talents you want for your build, which is why it is the best boon in the entire game, as it actually has a long-lasting and important effect on your build, as regular card burns do. But now you get 1.5 times more, so it's very, very good. Now we'll be going over the flaws, starting with Deficient, which is the worst flaw in the entire game. A permanent decrease to Ether and Ether Reservoir regeneration is terrible, and a lot of you were complaining about how I was pronouncing Ether. It's Ether in the last video, which is fucking stupid because you're an idiot and you don't know what you're talking about, seeing as how Ether is pronounced Ether in an American standard accent, and is actually a word that originates in American accents, so Ether is, the closest to the proper pronunciation of the word Ether. It's not Ether, because that's the British pronunciation of a word that originates in America. So if you say Ether and you're American, you're a fucking idiot. But let's go over this. Right now, it's just a permanent decrease to Ether and Reservoir regeneration, which is really bad. It'll probably get reworked so it decreases Ether tempo gain in Layer 2, which, if you don't know about the tempo system, you probably should go watch Agamatsu's Direct. Which is still really terrible since it's only one of two flaws, which is a constant debuff at all times. There is no reason for you to take Deficient, seeing as how all this does is make your build a direct downgrade to what it would be if you didn't have Deficient. Just don't take this. Literally just do not even think about taking this. Simple makes progression significantly harder since you need more EXP for an investment point. It just makes this game, which has already boring progression, even more boring, which is just painful for everyone who uses it, because Deepwoken, as I said, is already a significantly pretty boring game. I don't like Deepwoken progression, and really I don't even play the game anymore, but when I do play the game, it's not to fucking progress, because that shit sucks. This is obtained by rerolling your flaw. It causes you to never be able to enter Castle Light, but that's not it. This might be the worst flaw in the game because it forces you to be in a vow of mastery with Archmage. And Archmage is gay. Nobody fucking likes Archmage. He's British, gay, annoying, and he's terrible at game balancing. Look at Deepwoken and look at Rogue Lineage Shinobi. I would never take a vow of mastery with Archmage because I wouldn't want my life to be in the hands of a complete fucking idiot. But yeah, this really isn't terrible if you never meet Archmage. Hemophilia is really bad, because all this does is increase blood drain from all blood draining sources, including daggers. This means fighting dagger users is even more miserable because you're getting hit for even more blood damage than usual, which is why this flaw is terrible, because, you know, it just makes fighting the most annoying thing in the game more annoying and more deadly. I don't want to do that. Restless is the flaw you get when you break an oath with Young Shoal. You regenerate slower at campfires, which is really noticeable and really annoying. It's just not worth breaking an oath over, because you're going to be stuck with this permanent downside that's going to matter, and it's really going to affect you during gang. Don't take Squeamish. It's just really annoying and makes the game have an unneeded, unnecessary, boring downside of a mechanic that you will absolutely start to get mad at, like I did when I used to play Deepwoken. In the early days of Deepwoken, most people took like Squeamish as a flaw because they didn't think it'd be that bad. Then you realize every time you kill literally anything at all, your hunger and your water drains. And then you realize that it fucking sucks. Don't take Squeamish. It's not fun. I hate Glutton as well as Squeamish. It just makes your hunger and water drain faster, which is also really annoying because now you need to drink and eat more. This also makes water fights harder and makes Seer users drain your water instantly, even after the Seer rework, which is just painful. I actually don't know what the fuck the Seer rework does. This video is scripted, but I've been going off the script a lot because I'm really angry with Deepwoken. But yeah, Glutton, bad. Don't take Glutton. Glutton sucks. This talent makes your default reputation negative with every faction, which is actually okay. It's very bad starting out in Etris because the guards attack you by default and you can't pay to fix it. However, you can farm for stuff like Fort Merit much better with the Pariah's Keepsake, which makes this a pretty good flaw to use for farming builds, especially because now that Fort Merit's loot pool has been buffed, you can get a lot of much better loot from there, and it's actually one of the best spots to loot for, you know, legendary rings, rare cosmetics, weapons, whatever. So, Fugitive, actually pretty okay. Manic is good for insanity farming builds, which, you know, those are kind of obsolete, seeing as how all the insanity talents have been nerfed. So Manic really isn't worth it anymore, especially after, like, you know, all the nerfs to, like, lose your mind and all that stuff. You could grab it if you don't spend too much time in the depths, because it's then essentially disregardable, and you can just pretend you don't have it. But other than that, I mean, yeah, that's about it. You can take it, it's fine. It doesn't even fucking matter. You're only less stealthy when not crouching, meaning if you are crouching, obvious literally doesn't matter that you're more detectable. It's just a free flaw slot since it essentially does nothing negative for you, especially, you know, because of poor game design. Just take obvious if you want to, don't take obvious if you don't want to. It doesn't really fucking matter. But obvious, pretty good, and I would take this on most of my builds. Deep Bound. Well, what else can I say other than this flaw is fucking awesome. It's really good for the depths builds and PvE builds. It's also really unique, so I like it a lot, seeing as how this is like the only content, and I say that sparingly because, you know, this is still barely content, but it's pretty cool. Deep Bound makes it so you're spawned in the depths, gain more EXP in the depths, regain sanity in Castle Light, and forces the Enforcer to spawn in the depths trial regardless of your level, which a lot of people might think is bad because they're bad at the game, but that actually just helps you get your bell sooner. So it's not that bad. And yeah, it also gives you Diver Apprentice armor on spawn, which spawning with armor is actually a pretty big deal, you know, especially because Diver Apprentice armor is pretty good in the early to mid game. This is pretty much a direct upgrade to the game if you're actually good at the game and capable of doing PvE against most of the monsters. So there's really no reason to not take this if you're good, because it just allows you to do the actual depth progression without being extremely bored, and you get added benefits. So this really isn't a flaw if you're good at the game, But this is the best flaw in the game, and I would always recommend taking Deepbound if you're good enough at the game to make it work. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, join my Discord in the description and comment section down below, and buy a YouTube membership. If you enjoyed, subscribe so I can keep making videos, and goodbye.